This is just a couple of different ways that you can get a hold of me. You can email me, ben@sellingisorganic.com or organicselling@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I don't spend a lot of time on Instagram. Facebook's more personal, LinkedIn's more professional, just in case you were wondering how to get a hold of me. To give you a little bit of context as to who I am, what my background is, I'm either directly or indirectly responsible because I've run sales teams. I've done over $250 million worth of business in the last 20 to 25 years, roughly. I think it's actually 23 and a half, but who's counting, right? I've got 3 degrees, one's graduate, 2 undergraduate, 3 licenses, multiple certifications. I've done over 14,000 interviews in 20 years. I've done a lot of recruiting and training of sales reps in a variety of what we could say market verticals or industries. I've got over 250,000 direct knocks and dials. That means I've personally knocked that many doors or dialed the phone that many times. And that just keeps going up because that's one of the things I do to get in touch with people to try to affect a sale, if you will. And then I'm also a published author. I've got 3 books out on Amazon, and I'm going to try to get another 4 out this year if I can get a little bit more streamlined. As an FYI, Shane and I are working on a project called Write the Damn Book. And it's kind of like how to present yourself as an expert in the industry. So we're working on getting that streamlined, and we're looking to get that to where you could get a book written in about 90 days. I think that's the goal, right, Shane? Have you from 0 to published in about 90 to 120 days, depending on how fast you are. So that's just to give you a little bit of background as to who I am, where I'm coming from. I like to say everybody has context, and that's some of mine. I'm married. You can see my wife over here. Obviously the picture's a little bit older, but we've been married now for 23 plus years, and this year will be 24, and we have 6 children ranging in ages from 11 months to 22, almost 23 years. So there you go. That's who I am. So what we're going to talk about tonight is how to F up your life in 12 easy steps. You know, some people are trying to fight it. I say, why fight it? Let's just go get it done so we can get it up and over with. Let's be done with all the finger biting and the hand wringing and everything else. So who's this presentation for? This presentation is for you if you're tired, discouraged, struggle with doubt. It's also for you if you want to accomplish something, if you want to make something big happen. Whether it's big or small, they're your goals are important to you. So whether it's I want to survive the next 20 minutes or 20 hours of my fast, or I want to sell $20 million this year, you know, whatever that is, your goals are yours and you have them for a reason. So this is for you. Colin Powell, one of my favorite leaders out there, talks about how there are no secrets to success. It's the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. Other people have said that, luck is what happens when hard work and opportunity meet. So does that quote resonate with anybody? So I'm going to introduce you to my oldest son, Zachary. He is 22 years old. We believe he is, how should I put this? We believe he is vaccine injured. He's been labeled autistic since he was 8 years old. He struggled with brain seizure activity early in life. Doctors told us that he would always be awkward, physically weak, that he probably would never learn to ride a bike, that school would always be a challenge, and fine motor skills, who knows? They just didn't think much about him, right? So we've learned a lot about how a disability really, if we're careful and cognizant, we can make it a different ability. We've never treated him like he's autistic. We've always had high expectations for him. And wonder of wonders, he has exceeded expectations. So we really try to live with a no label mentality. So he learned to ride a bike at the age of 12. It's a little bit delayed, but he did learn to ride a bike. He's actually holding down a job right now at the racetrack, which is not too far from our house, and he's doing fantastic there. He wants to he's working on getting into school to work on graphic arts and that sort of thing. So we've encouraged him to chase his dreams, chase his passions, and all those sort of things, and to not let labels stand in the way of success, if you will. We've tried really hard to help him figure out how to articulate for himself, how to advocate for himself. You know, he'll ask us questions sometimes like, you know, how do I deal with XYZ? Because he's just not sure about, you know, emotionally speaking, he's kind of probably more like a 15 or 16-year-old, even though he's 22, just because he really struggles in the communication area. And that for me is a challenge, because communication is like one of my biggest strengths. So one of the things that we've worked on encouraging with, as I talked about, is his art. And I've got him actually working on a project related to what we're talking about. I've got him making a cover for the book, and this was one of his first concept drawings for BMIG. And that actually stands for something. But as you can tell, he's got some pretty good fine motor skills. I joke that I struggle with stick figures. So we say that Zachary is not autistic, he is artistic. So one of my challenges that I want to ask you is, what are the labels that are holding you back? What's keeping you from accomplishing what it is that you are looking to accomplish? So let's take a ride. What goals are, what they should be. This is what we're going to be talking about tonight, right? What they are, what they should be. We're going to talk about some foundational concepts. We're going to talk about a roadmap. We're going to talk about the role of the guru, the 12 F's, and a biblical perspective on positive thinking for people that are interested in Bible stuff. One of my degrees is in religion. You know, I'm a Christian. That's not for everybody. That's okay. It at least gives us something to work with. And whatever your faith is, it'll help you have maybe a perspective on how to look at your faith maybe a little bit differently. So one of my all-time favorite quotes is from Peter Drucker. He's considered the father of modern management theory, and he says, what gets measured gets done. So why is that important? Well, if you look at quantum mechanics, I don't know if you're aware of this, but observation of quantum particles actually affects their behavior. So literally, observation and measurement affects reality. So if you want to impact or affect your future, your current reality, you need to pay attention to what you're doing. You need to measure it, right? Numbers matter. Why do numbers matter? Because it helps you understand where you are, where you're going, where you want to be, right? Where you've been. Numbers can be analyzed. In 1979, how many of you are familiar with the Harvard MBA study program on goals? Anybody familiar with this? So in 1979, the Harvard MBA program asked this question of their, well, obviously their MBA students. They said, have you set clear written goals for your future and plans to accomplish them? When they asked, 84% had no specific goals, 13% had goals but not committed to paper, but only 3% had clear written goals with plans to accomplish them. So 10 years later, in 1989, to me, the statistics are absolutely mind-blowing. The 13% with goals averaged income that was 2 times more than the 84% that had no goals at all. So just having a goal, period, right? Just having a mental goal in your head automatically makes you 2 times better than 8 out of 10 people out there. But when you go to the written specific plan with a written specific goals with a plan to accomplish them, the average was 10 times the other 97% combined. So, I mean, what's the point? What do you guys think is the difference between having goals, having written goals, and then having written specific goals with a plan to accomplish them? Anybody want to chime in real quick with a pithy word or two? Just a couple sentences, all I'm looking for.
Well, it puts focus to your intention.
Absolutely. Yeah. Focus, intention. Yes, I agree. Both of those are really important. That's excellent feedback. Tolman?
Accountability.
Accountability. Absolutely. We'll get into a little bit later who you might want to be accountable with. Shane, you want to add anything to what they said? Accountability, focus, intent?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that gets left out with accountability is it's not so much that someone's telling you something you don't know, it's that they're helping you to follow through. I've found that in my having coaches and also being a coach, that quite often it's someone telling me something I already know, but I just don't do it, that actually spurs me to follow through. And that's the most valuable thing. It's not that they're giving me new information. It's they're reiterating something I know to do, but for some reason I just don't get around to it. And it's the getting around to it that's super valuable.
I love that. You remember those things you used to be able to buy them in the stores? You get a little round, a little wooden round to it that was stamped with to it and it was round. Hey, would you like a round to it? I like those. All right. So moving on to the next thing. All right. Is anybody familiar with the SMART goal setting formula? A lot of people are familiar with this, but not everybody. So what does it take for a goal to be SMART? And that a goal needs to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based or time-bound. I like to say that, you know, you could have the SMAR, right? You can SMAR, but if you can't finish your T, it's just a wish, right? If it's not time-bound, it's just a wish. Goals aren't goals unless it's something that's measurable and time-bound. The specific, attainable, and relevant part is really just about fleshing that out so that it makes sense to you, so that it has context for both you and the people that you share it with. But the two most important parts is the Drucker part, which is measure it, right? And then time bound. You got to put a date on it, right? Like, for example, I'm going to be debt free by 12/31/2020, or I'm going to make $567,542 by December 31st, 2020. That's the magic of oddly specific numbers, right? So those are for examples of what something might look like. Coming back around to the BMIG character that Zachary is working on for me. What does BMIG stand for? Well, BMIG stands for goals should be bold, masterful ideas and goals. The B or the bold is for inspiration. The M is for innovation. The ING is for your dreams, right? So this is kind of the affective part of the goal, right? It needs to inspire you. It should encourage you to innovate, and it should be tied to your dreams. Alignment between these things and the SMART, right? Alignment brings learning. Learning brings transformation, and transformation applied launches your dreams. And the reason I've got a dandelion in the picture is because ideas and goals should be the dandelions of your mind. What do you think I mean when I say that ideas and goals should be the dandelions of your mind? What do you think of when you think of dandelions outside of dandelion salad, which apparently is a thing?
Well, I can jump in because I grew up in the country, and they're kind of like weeds. They just grow like crazy, and it seems like the more you try to cut them down, the more they spread.
Right. So if you take that concept to what your dreams or your ideas and goals should be like, if they're the dandelions of your mind, what does that mean for your mind?
Well, it's like a catalyst. That's how I'd put it.
Sure. It's a catalyst. That's a good word, right? So really what we're talking about is something that literally infects, invades, affects every part of your thinking. You can't get it out, right? No matter where you look, there they are. When you bring intense focus and purpose to your dreams and goals, they will be the dandelions of your mind because you just won't be able to get away from them. Some people will make their goals a screensaver on their phone. Some people make it a screensaver on the laptop, but you know, I've gone to the point of sometimes having those goals in front of me, like I've stapled them to the ceiling so that when I wake up in the morning, I'm looking at them. When I get up and look at the end of my bed, they're there. When I go to the bathroom, they're there. I write them on the mirror, right? I mean, you know, how focused do you want to be on a goal that you want to accomplish? So part of accomplishing goals, you'll see I've got a little diamond over here, right? And then I've got diamonds on the right and I got kryptonite on the left. So one of the most foundational things that a lot of people fail to realize or think about when they're looking at how they accomplish their goals, they really don't check their self-talk, right? And I get the idea of the sale from, I want to say it was the Wolf of Wall Street movie, or it might have been the one with Ben Affleck. I can't remember which one, but either way, one of them talks about, you know, every time that you're on the phone, somebody is making a sale. Either you're selling your client on why they need you, or your client is selling you on why you don't need them, right? or why they don't need you. So what is the sale that you are making when you're talking to yourself? You need to check that soundtrack that's running in your mind, that little voice at the back of your head that's talking, right? What's the sale? What are you selling yourself, right? So what does sale stand for? It stands for self, which is self-talk, applied, right? Because you're applying that talk to yourself, to your brain. Labels, we label ourselves as well as everything in our environment. We can't help it. As much as we want to live in a label-free environment, we do it out of habit. That's part of how we're wired, I think. And then the SAL, right? With the self-talk that you apply to yourself with the variety of labels, you're either going to execute yourself, meaning you're going to kill yourself, or you're going to enable yourself. So check your self-talk. What is the law of inaction? This is related to self-talk, right? This is another foundational concept to goal setting and accomplishment. The law of inaction, this is what I call the psychological counterpart to Newton's first law of physics, right? A body at rest tends to stay at rest. A body in motion tends to stay at motion unless some outside force acts on it. So whether you're doing something now or later, the hardest part of goal accomplishment is either stopping the actions that you don't want to continue, right? Stop moving in the wrong direction, or start positive action, right? You got to get that psychological, physical, mental, emotional momentum headed in the right direction. I've got one of my favorite quotes from John F. Kennedy on here, right? There are risks and costs to action, but they are far less than the long-range risks of comfortable inaction. What are goals? Goals are part of your GPS. What's your GPS? GPS is how we get around in modern society, right? Well, what is GPS in terms of your goals and how you accomplish things? Goals are your target. Progress is you measuring that progress, and schema is framework, right? What's your values? What's your plan to get it done, right? So when you're following a GPS, what do? You are following directions, so you're constantly looking at that GPS map for a progress report. So what GPS is in goals means that you are continually paying attention to what you're getting done so that you can map or track your progress towards hitting those goals. Why? Because you may find that you need to adjust something, right? You need to take a turn. You got to take that left turn at Albuquerque that you forgot to take. Or maybe you need to move a little faster, or you need to move a little slower, right? It's about your ability to make the adjustments that you need to make in order to ensure that you hit your goals. The critical point that I think most people miss when they are dealing with their goals is the concept of impact, right? People will keep goals in mind, mentally speaking. They may even write those goals down, but so many people forget what Simon Sinek calls the why, right? So if you think about what happens when you drop a stone or a boulder or something in a pond or a lake, you get ripples, right? Especially when it's at night and it's quiet and everything's still, and you throw a rock out there and you get the ripples. So the point of this illustration with the ripples is that your goals have impacts. When you write down your goals, you need to draw out, literally write out, how is the accomplishment of this goal going to impact me? How is the accomplishment of this goal going to impact my family, right? That's the next concentric ring out. How is this goal accomplishment going to impact my clients and my company, right? So you need to understand the why. You need to understand what's going to happen when you accomplish these goals, right? So for example, if you're going to hit a certain income level, right, you might feel pride of accomplishment for yourself. Your family will benefit from the financial benefits of you hitting your income goals. And your clients and your company benefits from the profits you generated that produced the commission, but your clients are profiting or benefiting because you provided that much value to your clients so that, you know, it trickled back to everyone. Does that make sense? So when you know your impact, that means that you can drive engagement. Impact is the engine for engagement with your goals. You've got to put your goal accomplishment into gear, right? understanding the impact of your goals enables you to follow through on the necessary actions long term, because you're not the only one who's going to miss out on accomplishing those goals, right? So the point of understanding that impact is so that you can get that rapid increase in hitting your target. Why? Because it helps drive the motivation. It helps keep you moving. It helps the obstacles that you hit. It helps them to not be friction that stops you from accomplishing your goals, right? It's part of that thing that keeps you climbing, keeps you moving uphill, as opposed to getting stopped, stuck, and stuttering and falling back, so to speak. Another aspect of goal accomplishment for some people would be using a mentor or a coach. I personally think that this is super important. Now, a mentor and a coach might be a friend who's just holding you accountable, or it might be a formal relationship with a coach that's going to hold your feet to the fire, if you will, and review your goals with you. But whether it's a friend, a family member, a mentor, or a coach, I want you to notice a couple of things from the pictures that I picked, right? On the right-hand side, there's somebody that's going to give you help, support, advice, guidance, right? They're going to celebrate the many victories along the way. They're going to help you troubleshoot and get perspective when you need to make an adjustment. And then the other thing to note on the picture on the left is that it's somebody that's going to stand with you. They're beside you. They're walking with you. They're engaged in the process. And in order for you to really get benefit from this, I would really encourage you to make sure that this is something that you do face-to-face, right? Make it live. This isn't something that you do via text, right? You can check in with somebody from time to time, right? Hey, how you doing on your goals or whatever, right? But it's really important that you're meeting face-to-face, whether that's on a, like say, at a Zoom call like we're doing right now, or maybe meeting in person at a coffee shop to talk through things. And what does that face-to-face mean, right? It means that you're getting feedback, you're asking for advice, you're covering the checkpoints you are expecting to cover, and then you're getting encouragement, whether that's to overcome an obstacle, or you're getting encouragement because you're celebrating a victory that shows that you're moving along the way. But having that mentor, coach, or accountable friend to help you along the way helps just lock in that, hey, these goals are important and I'm going to achieve them. One of the things that I think is super important, and this comes from my business background, and that is really sitting down and understanding, not only for yourself, but perhaps for the company that you work with, right? But when you're looking at accomplishing your goals, you really want to think through, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my threats? What are my opportunities, right? So on the left side, on the left side, the strengths, the opportunities, right? These are the things that help you get there, and the weaknesses and the threats are the things that are going to drain your energy and keep you from having those things happen. Why write all those things out? It really helps you see what resources you have on hand so that you can make things happen. It helps you understand maybe where there's some opportunities for you to skill up or improve what you're doing. It also helps you block and tackle and prevent those things that could be an obstacle from interfering. So let's get into the 12 F's. How do we F up our life? The two foundational F's are formulate and force. And I want you to think kind of like a locomotive, like a train running down the track. And one rail is formulate, put a plan together. The other rail is force. You got to take action, right? So your train, when it's moving, is an unstoppable force. One of the things I like about the illustration of a train is, you know, some trains are literally the size of a skyscraper on its side running down the track. It's super hard to stop, right? So it takes two F's to make your goals work. You got to put a plan together, and then you got to take action. A plan with no action is not going to go anywhere, right? It just sits on the shelf gathering dust. If you're taking action, but you have no plan, you have no idea if you're walking in circles, walking backwards, walking sideways, right? You have no idea if you're being efficient or not efficient. So that's why it takes those two F's as the foundational aspect to make it work. So these are the first, like the next 10 F's, if you will, are really coming from me. I think that they cover basically the broadest aspect of zones for life, if you will, for life improvement, performance, all that sort of thing. I encourage folks to come up with your own Fs. What is the point of the Fs? Well, the point of the Fs is to make it memorable, to help it stick. It makes it easy for you to mentally think through it if perhaps you don't have your goals in front of you. I encourage people to get something like this. Like, I've got an actual book where I write things down, right? I actually went and got a nicer book. I used to do this on legal pads, but I found that they start to fall apart after a while. The paper starts to come apart. So I encourage people to get a book, put your SMART goals, put your SMART BMIG goals down in here, write out your impacts for each one, right? So that you can regularly review them. This also becomes an idea book, that sort of thing, right? So let's talk about the first three. The first three zones are super foundational. One is faith. Why is faith important? Well, because that's the internal lens by which we interpret everything that we do. These are kind of life zones, if you will. Family, these are the most significant, impactful personal relationships that we have, right? Whether that's a spouse or children, our immediate family, our extended family, that sort of thing. Some people might also include friends in this, or you could say family and friends, or you might say friends. So it just depends on where somebody's sitting, right? And then field refers to our profession. This is, how do we develop our impact on the world? What's the legacy that you want to leave behind, right? Your profession isn't just, I'm a checker at a grocery store. Well, maybe that's true, but that's really not, if you want to achieve massive goals, you want to get somewhere and achieve something amazing, your profession's got to be more than just a certificate on the wall or a title on a business card, if that makes sense. The next three that I have are financial, fitness, and failure. And remember, these are all running on those two rails of Formulate and Force. So financial, this is how we fund everything we do. This is the plan to accomplish our goals and dream for more. This is my ability to finance philanthropic opportunities, that sort of thing. Philanthropy is not exactly enough, but it sounds like enough, right? So some folks have philanthropic financial goals. Fitness, that could be like, for example, one of my fitness goals is I want to be able to do a muscle up by the end of the year. That means I want to be able to go from a chin up to pushing up, all in one movement. You know, how do we get in shape? How do we energetically move forward? You know, fitness is about managing your energy so that you can be physically, mentally, emotionally present when you're engaged in whatever you're engaged with, whether that's your family or work, etc. And then number 8 is failure. What do I mean by failure? That seems weird to have a goal for failure, right? It's not as much of a goal, right? It's like, yeah, I need to fail on stuff, right? But failure is just a reality. So when I talk about failure, I'm talking about a reflective journal. I'm talking about whether you do this daily or monthly, weekly, quarterly, annually, whatever it is, you really need to take time to sit down and talk about what are your takeaways? What are your lessons learned? What are the things that did not go well, and what can I do differently, or how can I improve, right? So it's great to have all the positive stuff in place, right? Because that helps us emphasize and focus on the things that we want to do. But if we don't also pay attention to things that aren't working well, we won't necessarily know what to adjust so that we can achieve faster, achieve more, achieve better. So that's the purpose of a reflective journal. And then the last 4, these are really kind of it starts to get a little bit more other-centered. This is moving a little bit further out from some of those core things that you're trying to accomplish. And again, maybe you can come up with some F's of your own, which is something to think about, like with a glass of wine or a coffee and a good friend, right? Whether that's a mentor, coach, or a friend or family member. But number 9 is future. This is vision, right? This is, where do you see your life going? Where do you want to be? This is a little bit different in my mind from a goal, right? A goal is I want to make a certain amount of money, right? I want to be a PhD, right? Future visioning is about, like, when I accomplish that goal, this is what I see. I'm going to live in this kind of a house. I'm going to be able to have these kinds of trips, you know, whatever that means for you, right? Visioning is like, if you want to drive a Mercedes, then you should dress up, go to the Mercedes dealership, and sit in the car and talk to a salesman. You can play hard to get, right? Just because you're not ready to buy it today doesn't mean that you're not going to be ready to buy it in 6 months or a year if you hit your goals. So visioning is really about understanding the emotional, mental picture of what it looks like when you hit those goals. Number 10, I call fan. And this is being others focused. This is, who can I encourage today and tomorrow? You know, how can I help Shane or Craig be better in life? This is runs along the lines of Zig Ziglar, who talked about, you know, if I want to accomplish my dreams, I need to help enough other people accomplish their dreams. So this encourages me to help other people accomplish their dreams, and who knows, but by helping them, I'll also be helping myself. Number 11 and number 12 are kind of like two sides of the same coin, but they are different. So number 11 is like, there are things that I want to be free from, right? Professionally, this is related to how we develop our impact on the world, but it's really about unlocking or taking things off of our performance. Like, I want to be more fit so that I'm more energetic, so that I can be more focused. I'm going to be debt free so that I can be more philanthropic. I'm going to be, I don't know, what would be another good thing? You can probably come up with something. And then free to is, I want to be able to do something, right? So if I'm free from something, for example, if I'm free from smoking, then that means I'm going to have another $200 to $300 a month that I can spend on something else, whether that's investing for the future, or giving money to a church cause, or maybe buying dinner, going out with my wife, or taking one of my kids out, or maybe buying some books and investing in my own self-development and education, right? That's an example of taking something that I want to be free from so that I can be free to do something, right? I want to be free to travel when I want. I want to be free to write a blog post a week. I want to be free to write a book. I want to be free to encourage other people. I want to be free to be a mentor at no cost to young children, whether that's the Boys and Girls Clubs or something like that. So what would be some, do either one of you have any ideas for another F that could potentially go on the list? I mean, if you do, great. If not, that's okay. Maybe instead of talking about another F, if you can't come up with one, maybe just give me some feedback on the 12 Fs before we move to the next section.
Well, the first thing that comes up for me is fun. And that is both having an outlet so that you can enjoy yourself while you're in the process of like working on goals. Because I think that sometimes when people are so focused on, you know, grinding out whatever the success is, they tend to kind of miss out on a lot of things, whether it's, you know, enjoying time with their children and with their spouse, or just, you know, relaxing and blowing off steam so that way they can kind of come back to it more fresh. But also, I think it's important to have fun incorporate into the thing. You know, if you're enjoying the work, then it's not going to seem as hard as if you're hating the work. So having a fun aspect to, you know, if you're super excited to write your book, then you're probably going to work on it a lot more. And if it seems like a chore, then you're going to try to avoid it.
That's good. I like that.
I would say foresight, although it's a touch related to seeing your vision and really about where you want to be. But most people do not have the ability to envision themselves having a goal and going through instances of their motivation shifting. So just having the foresight to understand that it is not always a straight line, even if you can see where you want to go, and you may have variances in your motivation. I think that's pretty important.
That's good. I like that. That's great feedback from both you guys. I appreciate that. So let's take a quick look at the biblical basis for business success and positive thinking. One of the reasons why I have listed this is because there is a certain sect of Christianity that suggests that you have to be down in the mouth. I would call it a poverty mindset. But some people would say that, oh, well, if you're not emphasizing the fact that you're a sinner, if you're not emphasizing, right, if you don't focus on the bad, then you can't properly appreciate the good, which I don't entirely understand. But there are people out there that think that way. I've actually had people that I went to school with, because I went to Bible college, they're actually offended when I talk about positive thinking because they think it's somehow evil or wrong. So I just tell them that they really should take another look at Scripture, because there's a very solid scriptural basis as to why you should be thinking positively. And I've kind of walked through some scriptures in what seems like a logical sequence to me, and there's probably some other good verses that could be added in, but I'm not trying to preach a message here. So for those of you that have faith that's not necessarily Christian, I would encourage you, because most faiths have some sort of a basis or talk about positive thinking at some level. I'm not familiar with other faiths to be able to talk to it specifically, but at least as it relates to Christianity and the Bible, Romans 12:2 talks about, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, right? So as a Christian, I'm concerned about being where I need to be, when I need to be there, doing the things that I need to be doing. And, the pattern of this world, let's face it, is kind of negative, down in the mouth. I mean, look at all the nastiness rolling around on the television. What's the thing that seems to sell the most on the news is negativity, right? So if I don't want to be caught up in that pattern, then, I need to spend time in Scripture, and I need to be working on renewing my mind, right? And what does renew mean? Make it new, right? That to me is a counterpoint, or it literally talks about being positive. Philippians 4:8 is an even clearer statement about being positive. Finally, brethren, and the interesting thing is the Apostle Paul wrote both of these, right? Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. I mean, he's like covered the whole gamut of stuff related to positive thinking, right? If it's true, if it's honest, if it's just, if it's pure, if it's lovely, if it's good, if it's got virtue, if there's any praise, think on that. And he says, think on these things. That's the way that's written in the Greek. It's a continual state, right? It's something that you need to be constantly doing. It's not just something that you think about and move on from, right? Or not a point in time, if you will. Jesus said in John 10:10, the thief only comes to steal and kill and destroy. I've come that they may have life and that they may have it to the full. In the Greek, it's literally zoe parasos, which is an ongoing state of abundant goodness, is really the best way to understand that. So, God wants us to have a whole good, positive experience in life, if you will. And then the next two verses are just kind of about, they're actually focused on a woman, but it also applies to a man, right? So she looks, Proverbs 31:18 and 22, she perceives that her merchandise is good. Her candle does not go out by night. She makes herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. What are silk and purple? That's a royal color, and that's the cloth or the fabric of royalty. She makes her coverings of tapestry, right? What's a tapestry? It's expensive clothing. It's expensive cloth. So what's that mean? So if her merchandise is good, that means that what she's doing is she's having a positive impact in her community with the stuff that she produces. And not only is it good, but it's producing enough of a profit that she can have a candle on all night long, right? Like she can literally keep the lights on all night. So back in that day, if you had a light on at night all night long, that was a demonstration or an image of wealth, and it was kind of a safety thing and other things, right? You want to see where the house is. So all of those things talk about, merchandise and profitability is good. And not only is it good, but it's okay to reward yourself for doing well. And then what does God say to the nation of Israel in Isaiah 43:19? See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. What better, more positive perspective to have about what's happening in life, right? Than to realize that, if God can make something out of nothing, right? If God can make a road in the trackless wilderness, if he can bring a stream, a life-giving stream to the wasteland, what can he do with you, right? So there is absolutely a biblical basis for positive thinking and business success. So I think that anybody that doesn't take that on is literally putting themselves in a negative position for no reason. So let's go through a summary of our top concepts really quickly, just so we can kind of review what's involved in the 12F formula, right? 12 easy steps to F up your life. So what are the top concepts? Don't be defined by labels from others. Choose your own labels, right? You need to have a SMART goal setting framework that's got the BMIG format, right? SMART is specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time bound. BMIG is bold, masterful ideas and goals, right? So your BMIG goals need to be in that goal setting framework. Check your self-talk, right? Self-applied labels, either expedite or execute. Pay attention to the law of inaction. Get started. GPS, your goals, your progress, your schema, right? That's look at the framework that you have, measure what you're doing so that you can make sure you accomplish your goals. Get a mentor or know the impact of your goals, right? Understand what the goals mean, not only for you, but also for those that you interact with and impact. Get a mentor or a coach, or, get somebody to keep you or hold you accountable. Do a SWOT analysis so that you know what you can leverage to accomplish your goals and what you need to avoid or be on the lookout for so that you don't get blocked. And hey, yes, there is a biblical basis for being positive. And what are the 12 F's? You're going to run on the rails of Formulate and Force. And my suggested F's are faith, family, field, financial, fitness, failure, future, fan, free from, and free to. And if we take some of the editing from both Craig and Shane this evening, we may add the word fun, and we might interchange foresight with future or link foresight to future. So some great feedback from our group here this evening.